Good morning, everyone, at least morning from Washington, D.C. Welcome back to the ICFJ Global Health Crisis Reporting Forum. And today we're here to introduce you in person to the International Journalist Network, also known as IJNet, represented here today by IJNet manager, David Maas, and IJNet editor, Taylor Mulcahey. If you don't know me yet, I'm Stella Roque, Director of Community Engagement at ICFJ, based here in Washington, D.C. Today we're going to talk about IJNet and its COVID-19 resources and how you can pitch stories to the editors and what they're looking for come 2021 as the pandemic rolls on. A reminder to the people tuning in, if you have questions during this discussion, please post them on the Zoom chat or in the comments of the Facebook live stream. We'll also be taking live questions once we're done with the presentation about IJNet itself. Thank you so much for joining us today, Taylor and David. So tell us about IJNet. Shall we start with your presentation?
Yeah, thanks, Stella. So I'll go ahead here and share my screen and we can kind of get started with our presentation and then go from there with like questions and everything like that. So. All right, welcome to IJNet.
All right, so I'll take this first slide. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Like Stella said, I'm David. I'm the IJNet manager. So just some basic top line info about IJNet, if you're not familiar with us already. We operate in 8 languages. We publish tips, tools, and resources for journalists all over the world. Our 8 languages are, you can see them at the bottom of your screen: Russian, Persian, English, Arabic, Chinese, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. We have tons of newsletter subscribers and visitors to our site, over 180,000 unique visitors these days every month, 90,000 newsletter subscribers across our 8 languages. And we have our own IJNet Facebook forum, separate from the Health Crisis Reporting Forum, also on Facebook, in which we have 6,000 members right now.
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of an overview about the types of content, and sorry, I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Taylor Mulcahey, the IJNet editor, as Stella said, so happy to be here. So to give you an overview of like the types of content that we offer on IJNet. So here you can see what the home screen will look like. Up at the top of the page, we have stories, opportunities, and toolkits. So our stories are regular reported articles, they're tip sheets, they can be case studies, things like that. And we'll go over a little bit later kind of the types of content or the types of stories that we're publishing. The second thing we have is we offer opportunities. So IJNet gathers opportunities for journalists from all over the world. And all of these opportunities that we're promoting are free or low cost to journalists. They can include things like trainings, fellowships, grants, job opportunities, and things like that. And so every day we share about 4 to 5 opportunities on our opportunities page. We'll also share those out on social media. And as you'll see later, those are also accessible in our weekly newsletter that we send out. So this is like a really great reason to visit IJNet. We hope you'll stay and read a story, but we definitely know that finding these opportunities is challenging, and we collect them from all over the world. So they're not just for English speaking journalists. We have the same page in every other language. And yeah, we definitely want people to come and check that out because it really does help find new opportunities to take your career to the next level. And then the last thing we have there at the top are toolkits. So these toolkits are more like evergreen expert toolkits. We have them on collaborative journalism, media entrepreneurship, like journalism basics, multimedia journalism. We probably have more to come. And these are just sort of things that you can always reference. So we want them to be like really usable, like very like fact-based, like how do you go about launching a new startup? What do I need to consider if I'm starting a collaborative project? Yeah, and so those are, like really great evergreen resources for journalists.
All right, so like we mentioned, we publish in 8 languages, which means true to our name, our audience is truly international and very global. Our top readership is actually from Brazil. I should add, we have a team of great, editors and translators working all around the world. It's not Taylor and me publishing all these resources in all these different languages. So we have, our Arabic team based in the UAE and Lebanon, our Spanish team based in Uruguay and Argentina, and so on and so forth. And so because we publish in all these, all the 8 languages, we have, readers visiting us, not just from the US, but, as you can see, Mexico, Spain, India, Saudi Arabia, Argentina. And and we're having our best year yet with COVID-19, unfortunately with COVID-19, but, as journalists turn to us for these resources to support their reporting. So please continue to, join us.
So kind of like David started saying, we definitely jumped into action with the help of Stella and the community team and everyone else at ICFJ to start putting together resources for journalists who are covering COVID-19. We know this is like a new story, and certainly when we started, we didn't know how long it would be a story for, but I think we all have a pretty good idea that this is going to be here for a while, and journalists are going to continue to need these resources to cover new angles of COVID-19. So you can see here on the homepage, it's circled in orange, right next to Toolkits, we have COVID-19, which will take you to our COVID-19 landing page. We've published more than 769 resources across every language. It's going up every day. And these are just all types of resources to help support journalists who are covering the pandemic. You can see a few here, just highlighting different case studies. There are stories people are doing, investigations, and we have a lot of tip sheets, a lot of guidance on how to cover specific topics like education, the business side of things, the economy, and also just like health reporting basics that are always changing, and guidelines are always changing, and we're like always supporting journalists through that as well. We've put together some, like if you can see here at the top, we've collected more information. So we have like a resource page that has some more additional information on COVID-19, like our glossary of terms and a list of other places you can get more information. And we work closely with Stella to share recaps from the webinars that are hosted on the Global Health Crisis Reporting Forum. So every webinar that's hosted, there's a recap that ends up on IJNet, and that can be like really helpful if you're unable to attend everything. Stella's doing great work, and then we're just trying to support that and get as many eyes on that as possible to really help journalists as they're working through this. We'll keep going here, but I'm sure we'll talk more about the stuff that we have for covering COVID-19 kind of as we go on.
Yeah, so also this year we've really focused on mental health as well, made that a priority in our coverage. So I believe we'll share a bit.ly link, for this presentation, so you'll have access to links to these resources that live on IJNet today. These include, one of these is a webinar recap of an IJNet webinar we ran. Others are just general, mental health resources specifically for journalists. And then this year we produced our first truly dedicated podcast series in which we focused on mental health and journalism. And in this series, it's a 6-part series, and we cover topics like PTSD and burnout and digital wellness, and 2 episodes focus on the mental health in particular of Black journalists and of women journalists. And definitely check us out if you haven't. We live wherever you get your podcasts in general, so definitely check it out. And we have, just short descriptions of the podcast. If you don't want to commit yet, all those articles live on IJNet as well.
So engaging with IJNet. So like David said, definitely check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, all those kind of things. It really was a great series that we did earlier this year. But to further engage with IJNet and to stay up to date on what's new and what we're publishing, definitely engage with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And like David said earlier, we have a dedicated Facebook forum, and that you can all link to on our homepage. Our handle for everything is IJNet, so it's pretty easy to find. And then we also have a Slack group. Stella has shared this out in the forum before, and we can, continue to share it out again. I can find the link to join that for anyone who's interested. In case you're trying to connect with journalists one-on-one, you can do so through our Slack community. And then finally, I would definitely recommend joining the newsletter. We really don't email all the time. For the most part, it's the one weekly newsletter. It looks like right over here, it just has a summary of the articles that we posted during the week, and as well as the opportunities that we posted during the week. So this is a really great opportunity if you're not visiting us every day to at least see the highlights of the different kinds of opportunities that are available for you. And we have this available in every language. So if you're not, if you don't want to read it in English, we have it in Spanish, Portuguese, and every other language that IJNet is publishing in, and all the resources will be on those newsletters as well. So there's a link there, but it's really easy to navigate to on the homepage to join that as well. Writing for IJNet.
Yeah. All right, so some general guidelines if you are interested in ever writing for us, and please, we definitely encourage you to send in your pitches. We love getting your pitches. We rely on freelancers for so much of our content. And so some general guidelines, must be original content. We don't, if you've already published elsewhere, we're not going to republish that. So please send us original pitches. In general, we say posts should be between 500 and 800 words. This is a very flexible guideline, I would say. Posts actually often tend to be a little longer, but just in general, I'd say most of them are about 700 to 800 words. If published, we pay $100 per article, and we accept stories in all languages. So we've included another link here through which you can send your pitches, and we go through them regularly on a consistent basis. And if you're pitching in Spanish or Portuguese or Russian, we'll flag that for the relevant language editor to get that on their radar. So please continue to send in your pitches.
And then just a rundown of the types of topics to pitch. So we're going to talk more about pitching here in a second with Stella, but like anything, if you are a journalist, you know how important it is to pitch. And most of the times the reason your pitch isn't accepted is, a very fixable problem. So first and foremost, definitely identify the types of content we are publishing on IJNet. We are publishing resources for journalists. So everything has to have a usefulness element for working journalists. It can be case studies, and we have a list of different types of stories that we're publishing here. So tips in a list, or a deep dive on like a specific tip, a list of tools for, say, transcribing interviews, or recording on your phone, or a deep dive in a specific tool that you want to look into. We take a lot of case studies. So lately it's been case studies of how, a team of journalists is investigating something related to the pandemic, or, kind of looking into the background of that. A close look at research. So we just published a few things recently, one about like women, how like women's underrepresentation in COVID news. And that was a summary of like a research project. We do like some event overviews. Obviously this doesn't happen quite as much now because there are far fewer events, but we will do things at like after journalism conferences or things like that. And finally, like a project overview. So, if someone's working on a specific like different type of startup or something like that, that's something we'll look into as well. So definitely familiarize yourself with content. We can kind of go over some pitching guidelines in general. We have resources on IJNet for like tips to pitch stories. But basically, first and foremost, identify the types of content we're publishing and really stay in line with that. We are interested in your pitches and we would love them, but the number one reason it gets thrown out is it's irrelevant. All right, and then what are we looking for in 2021? David, you want to...
Yeah, so that's a good question. And this is constantly evolving. We like to be very responsive to things as they develop. If you asked us last year what we'd be focusing on, we would be dead wrong. And we get much to covering issues related to reporting on health and COVID, of course. So this year, as we go into 2021, we're thinking we really would love to get pitches related to, reporting on the environment or climate change. This is only going to be a bigger and bigger issue. And it's super important that, there's quality journalism around it. We're also, I should mention, we're still going to be focusing on COVID-19. So please send us your pitches on all angles related to COVID-19. The pandemic's not going anywhere anytime soon, despite the promising vaccine news. So yes, any angle related to COVID-19, we're still very receptive to in terms of your pitches. Media sustainability, that's another focus area that we'd like to have in 2021. It was already a big issue in the news industry, and then the pandemic has just made it all the more critical as newsrooms struggle to stay afloat. It's more difficult to find jobs. If you're a journalist, it's more difficult to be freelancing out there. So any angle you have related to media sustainability, whether it's a case study, we love case studies in particular, where others can potentially learn from some unique initiative that's really worked out, or perhaps something that didn't work out as was hoped for or expected, as well as tip sheets and tools like Taylor mentioned earlier. And also we'd love to focus, continue to focus on newsroom equity issues. This has only become a more pronounced issue in 2021, and issues related to DEI. And so we'd love to, continue this focus into 2021 as, hopefully newsrooms make good on what they're, what some of them are saying they will do, and there will be, areas that we can, highlight what's worked and what hasn't worked. And, as 2021 continues, there will be, some distance between, where we'll be able to focus on, providing tips for other journalists and newsrooms out there.
All right, so we'll definitely keep going here, Stella. She'll have some questions. We'll take audience questions, but definitely feel free to email David and I. We're also on Slack and Twitter, and pretty responsive on all of those. So yeah, so definitely take down our information, and then we'll continue talking here for a bit. But if you have additional questions, please reach out to us. We rely on our audience. So we want to hear from you. So the more we can hear from our audience, the better. So don't ever hesitate. So
thank you so much for that presentation, Taylor and David. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the journalists here who aren't familiar with IJNet appreciate it as well. We do have some audience questions. We promise we'll get to them as we go along. So a lot of the participants here, and certainly many of the forum members, are probably already familiar with some of IJNet, although that presentation really helped fill in information they might not have known. For those who aren't, could you tell us a bit about the history of IJNet? Why were you created and what's your mission?
That's a good question. I'll take a first stab at it. We actually familiarized ourselves with this when we launched our brand new French site, which we launched last spring. And so we looked back to see, when we originated and when all the different languages popped up. And so IJNet first started as a single English language webpage back in 1998. In the years since, Spanish and Portuguese were added. Then in the, that was the early 2000s. Then in the later 2000s, we added Chinese, Russian, Arabic, Persian, I believe. And then just last spring, like I mentioned, we added French. Our mission has always been and continues to be, really dedicated to supporting journalists around the world, providing these tips and tools to help them, better their reporting, improve how they approach their news coverage, and also, as Taylor already mentioned, a really big draw for IJNet and for our audience is the opportunities that we post. We're constantly posting, job opportunities or free webinars or training opportunities, fellowships, and we make it a point that these opportunities are accessible. They're all free or low cost opportunities to really help you in a manageable way further your careers.
Brilliant, thank you. And how did you guys come to work for IJNet? How long have you been there? Tell us a bit about yourselves as journalists.
Yeah, I can start with this one. It's not super exciting. So I've been at IJNet for 3.5 years. I actually started at ICFJ as an intern after, going to school and everything like that. So yeah, I started as an intern and slowly weaseled my way into IJNet. And now I've been here for 3 years. So I do some of my own reporting, mostly for IJNet, and then, outside of that as well for freelancing. But a lot of what I've learned has been through just working with journalists who are out in the field.
All right. And I've been at IJNet a little, not quite as long as Taylor has, a little less than 2 years now. I was working at a really tiny news outlet in Philadelphia, where I'm from, covering local politics there. So I got a taste of what local news is like. Before that, I was in grad school studying investigative journalism, and I also spent some time in Medellin, Colombia, working for an English language news outlet, covering kind of national politics and major developments in Colombia. And so, yeah, I came to IJNet about ICFJ and working at IJNet about a little less than 2 years ago. And yeah, it's been honestly a great experience. I think my favorite part of the job is, as we're putting out these resources to really support you all out there, and or at least I'm constantly learning about, through the pitches you're sending our way, about all these different, apps that are, these cutting edge apps, and these tips for, across all different aspects of journalism. And, the case studies are always super insightful. And so, yeah, that's, I guess, me in a nutshell.
In your opinion, what makes IJNet different from other journalism publications out there?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I'd say the biggest thing that sets us apart is the fact that we are publishing in 8 languages. A lot of our content is similar across, it might start in English and is translated to the other languages, but it also goes the other way. So it might be written in French, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, and then translated the other way into English, and then it goes out into the other languages. So it really does allow us to get kind of a global snapshot of what's happening in journalism. We're not just looking at the US and writing things from here looking out. We really want it to be, our stories come from like all different countries, in all kinds of different types of publications, different types of news environments, and they're translated into a bunch of different languages, so we can really share globally what's happening in these different like pockets. And I think that is definitely like the biggest thing that would set us apart from other journalism organizations or journalism publications. Another big thing is just the resource or the opportunities that we post. That is a huge edge that we have, just to be able to, we have our teams dedicated to looking for those and sharing them out. And so we really have also a global snapshot of opportunities that are out there for journalists. And then finally, just like the practical level of our tips and tip sheets. And we really want it to be like, we love lists, like 10 tips for X and 5 tools to help you do this. And I think those types of things, we don't want you to have to read through crazy dense story to get these really useful like nuggets of information. So we really like focus on the practical elements of things, and to make it like as useful as possible for working journalists.
And actually, I would like to weave in one of the audience members' questions here. It's George Rodriguez. Thank you so much for your question. He asks, like, given that you've published in 8 languages, do pitches necessarily have to be in English? And if not, where do the reporters pitch to if it's in another language?
It's a good question. No, we accept pitches in all our languages. We're able to publish a little more, depending on the setup. In Arabic, we're regularly publishing original language articles. And with COVID, we've been, increasing, the number of original language articles and resources we're publishing, across our languages. You'll use the same pitch form that you can find on our site. It's at the, on the top banner of our site. There's also a link to the pitch form in this presentation that we'll send out that we, just presented about. And yes, if you don't speak English or you don't write in English, send it in the other languages, and we'll flag it for the relevant editor so that they can take a look and, take it from there.
And IJNet also runs programs. What kind of programs do you run, and how can reporters apply for them?
So yes, we do run a few programs. Well, as you all know, we're part of ICFJ. ICFJ runs a whole lot more programs, but we run, we've run a mentoring center for media entrepreneurs in the Middle East, and we've done that now. We're in our 7th year, and this is for really journalists and media entrepreneurs Arabic-speaking journalists and media entrepreneurs based in the Middle East and North Africa. And it's a really great program. We pair them, every year we pair 8 media entrepreneurs with, expert mentors in the region to help guide them as they build up recently launched news outlets and media initiatives. And you can find more information about that on IJNet. We just recently published an article about our latest batch of cohort of mentees who are just getting started. And this is a yearly program, so we will, if you are an Arabic-speaking media entrepreneur tuning in right now based in the MENA region, we'll be opening up applications for next year's program, likely in late May or early June. We also, we're running we recently ran a really tiny program to support Persian-speaking journalists as well, and we're in the process of, we're in the middle of a new program to support Persian-speaking journalists, similar to, our regular IJNet content, just, producing, resources to support them. So our Persian site, we're happy to say is, fully operating right now with, similar to our other language sites to support these journalists.
And you mentioned in your presentation that you also have toolkits available and that they're an evergreen resource. What kinds of toolkits do you have and that are useful for a lot of reporters who are working from home to access remotely?
Yeah, so we have 4 toolkits available in English. It looks a little different across every language. So I definitely, if you are if you work in another language, can access it, then definitely take a look in the other languages, but I'll speak for English first. So we have a toolkit on media entrepreneurship, collaborative journalism, multimedia journalism, and what we call journalism 101. And these are like basics, like how to pitch stories, like that is a great one, or how to transcribe an interview. What do you do when you're writing a headline? And just some really useful tips. Honestly, I refer to them often, especially the transcription tools, very helpful. So I can put a link here in the chat to our toolkits page, but it's really easy to navigate to from our homepage. And yeah, we've worked with a lot of different experts in different fields who are helping us put these together. So I would say definitely take a look at those, familiarize yourself with the kind of stuff we're offering there.
Brilliant. And what has been your relationship with the forum, and how can forum members get more involved in contributing to IJNet and keeping connected?
So yeah, so our relationship with the forum. So we do work closely with Stella, our great moderator today. We will be, as Taylor mentioned before, we publish recaps of all forum webinars. Every single one today. There's a recap that lives on IJNet. If you missed the recording, we have the recording embedded in these resources, as well as a written write-up in case you don't want to watch that recording. We have also pretty regularly spotlighted different forum members and the reporting they're carrying out around COVID-19. And I know we've spotlighted journalists in Colombia and Armenia and Uganda, I believe, so far. And recently just some reporting, where was it? Indonesia, I want to say. Basically, we were really trying to spotlight forum members who are really carrying out great work and both highlighting the reporting they're doing and sharing it widely through IJNet, because these write-ups will get translated into our other languages. So if you're reporting in Uganda, people in Brazil and Argentina will get to read about it. And we'll also, aside from the specific forum-related content that we're involved with, we're regularly publishing, our own COVID-19 resources that we get through pitches from you all, and that we commission. And when we have these published on IJNet, we don't necessarily share all of them in the forum, but we, pretty regularly remind forum members that, we have these resources and we'll share, especially relevant ones in the forum.
And now getting into story pitches, which interests everyone who wants to pitch stories to you. How many story pitches do you get on average per day? And what do you normally look for in a good story pitch?
I feel like if I said a number, I'd be making it up for how many we get every day. But we're definitely getting they're constantly rolling in. So we do get quite a few pitches and we try and get to all of them. Unfortunately, we cannot respond to all of them. But we definitely do like rely on the pitches from freelancers, and a lot of our stories that we commission are through our pitching form or are through, you know, an emailed pitch. So, you know, even if we don't get back to you, don't be discouraged. Sometimes just as a timing thing. But at the same time, we like always recommend putting in some effort and really making sure that what you're doing is, as I said before, the biggest thing is like making sure it's relevant. I'd say most pitches that we're throwing out are not that they're like written, you know, it's not about how you're writing them. It's mostly just like, it's not relevant. You know, we'll get stories that are like, oh, on like maternal health, interesting, but not something we're going to publish on IJNet. So that's like a big thing, is just like make sure it is a like resource, a tip, a tool, something useful for journalists. I'd say that's like number one. And you know, it shows if you haven't read IJNet, so read it and then send us a pitch. I think that is like the number one mistake people are making. Aside from that, you know, in terms of how to make your pitch stronger, you know, really have a strong title, you know, so we're clicking on your pitch, you know, put that out there like right at the beginning so we don't have to like dig around for what it's about. I'd say keep it as short as possible. You know, we'd say like 3 to 4 sentences max, really, just a few sentences about what you're looking to report on. And then we ask on our pitching form if you can send a link to any other published work. So we really do want to see like that you have, you know, written in the past. It doesn't have to be like incredible, or, you know, you don't have to be in the New York Times or whatever, but we do want to make sure that you like have written in the past, or, you know, at least if you can like send us like something you've maybe not been published, but that you've like worked on before. And then also just to make sure that you are including as much information as you can in like a short period of time. So a couple sentences, what it's about. And then if you can, like, who are you going to talk to? What are some potential sources? What makes your story interesting and different than like stories that we've seen in the past on IJNet? So sometimes things are just similar to something we've already published, and we're not going to publish the same thing twice. So I'd say those are like definitely the big things to consider when pitching. Like I said, we do have a source on or a resource on IJNet about like how to write a strong pitch, and that can be helpful as well. Also, if you're emailing, I'd say I definitely recommend, and every editor is kind of different with this guidance, but for IJNet specifically, if you can put pitch in your subject line, that is really helpful for us to like sort through what you're emailing about. Yeah, David, do you have things to add to that?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I'd say, yeah, and add just why, I don't know if you specifically mentioned that, but just add why, you know, you think this is important, would be relevant to our audience. I think that would really you focus the pitch and really help frame it for us as well.
And your audience is primarily journalists.
Exactly, yeah.
And just to recap, because you kind of dropped like different topics you're looking for 2021, could you just summarize what are those top topics again for all the attendees who are here and people watching on the forum?
Right, so, and I'll clarify as well, you know, these are topics that we'd really love to get more resources out on IJNet about, and that, you know, well, COVID-19 will continue to have that be a focus area of ours, you know, you know, anything related to environment or climate change reporting, resources on newsroom equity or DEI in the newsroom, and media sustainability resources. And I say all that while also I'd like to mention, you know, we have, if you visit our site, we have a whole drop down with all the different, you know, categories and topics we publish about. And so we still want your pitches about, you know, investigative journalism and fact checking and misinformation and the local news and, you know, all that. So while these, you know, we'd really love to spotlight these and really emphasize more resources on this, we still want a well-rounded, you know, balance of resources on IJNet that, you know, support journalists covering all types of news out there.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to open it to the floor. So for those of you who are here attending, we're actually going to unmute you for those who have questions. So if you would raise your hand on Zoom, I'm going to unmute you and you can ask us anything. I'm going to start here with, I think this is Nusrat. I'm going to allow you to talk, Nusrat. Hi, Nusrat. How are you? Can you hear us? Oh. Hi, Nusrat. Do you have a microphone by any chance so you can talk to us? If not, could you type your question on the chat and we'll definitely get to it. All right. I'm going to unmute Abdulaziz. How are you, Abdulaziz? Where are you? Hi, Abdulaziz, can you hear us? Oh, I don't know why this isn't working. I have unmuted people. Hi, Abdulaziz. For some reason, we can't hear you. Do you have your mic on? Maybe I'm going to ask Lydia, our production assistant, who's in the background. Lydia, could you try unmuting Abdulaziz? Oh, hello. Are you there? Ooh. Abdulaziz, can you hear us? For some reason, I see your mic on, but I don't see any sound coming out of it. All right, I'm going to try MEN.
Hello.
Hello, MEN. Okay, we got someone with the mic working. How are you?
Hi, thank you.
Hi, where are you based? And tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm based in Nigeria.
Oh, wow, excellent. And what question do you have here for IJNet?
So I wanted to ask about the stories you talked about. Are the stories, for instance, if I want to pitch, do I have to pitch for a story differently and then pitch for like what's I can see on your site here?
Resources?
Yes, resources. Can it just be a story, say, about journalism? Or like, for instance, a lot of Nigerian journalists have their own sites now, aside from the media organizations they work for. So would that be something that the IJNet would, accept to pitch for something? That's what I want to find out. Is my question?
Yeah, can you, I'm not sure I'm understanding, so I'm going to try and then you can maybe clarify. So are you saying, like, how do you go about pitching specific stories?
Is there a difference between resources and stories, I think?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so for the most part, we take pitches for story pitches, like our story section. The resources are kind of things that we're putting together with, we aren't necessarily taking cold pitches on those. We might reach out if we know that that's something you're interested in writing about, like in the future, if you've already written for us, we might reach out for like help putting together resources. But in the beginning, we definitely just like recommend pitching a story idea. But we also, and I failed to mention this earlier, if you have like an opportunity that's for journalists, so if you are working with like a media organization that is accepting interns or that, you're helping put together a training, you can reach out to us with those opportunities too, and for a chance for those to be like shared if you're looking for, to try and get that, a lot of like eyes on that type of content and get a lot of people to sign up. You can share that with us via email. Our emails are in the presentation and we can help like get those opportunities up too. So for the most part, those are the types of things we're taking pitches on is the stories, number one, and then if you have an opportunity that you're recruiting for. Okay, does that help answer your question?
Yes, it does. So sorry to continue, but I still need further clarification. So the stories, the story angle, can it be any story about anything generally, or does it have to be related to journalism?
Yeah, so it has to be related to journalism. So the story itself, consider that our audience is journalists. So we want it to be a story that is going to be useful for working journalists who are primarily our readers. So general topics are not for IJNet. Definitely keep it focused on specific case studies or interviews or tips and resources for journalists.
Okay. What about COVID-19?
So Yeah, so COVID-19 is going to be kind of how can journalists cover COVID-19? So we're not just like reporting stories on COVID, but we're kind of doing what can we offer on IJNet to help journalists who are covering it. So for example, when we did like a case study recently on how journalists like in Singapore covered migrant workers. So that is like, you know, people can read that and learn from it because they can see sort of the how we covered angle. Or, you know, it might be like 10 tips for covering the economy as like, you know, we enter a recession from COVID-19. So something like that, but it has to be with the journalism angle.
Thank you.
Can I just add, I mean,
Thank you.
just the best way to get to know what we're looking for is just read through our website, just visit IJNet and, you know, see the resources we published recently, and you'll get definitely a better feel for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Emian.
much.
I also see that we have a whole set of questions actually in the Q&A that people have posted. So an anonymous attendee asks, could you give us an example or a bit more direction on what sort of pitches you're looking for on climate change and COVID?
It's a good question. I
It's
would
like you'll
say,
know it when you see it.
yes, that is an answer. Yes, I think, and we are not experts on this, so I think a lot of this would come from you, you know, coming forth with ideas specifically on this. But I think, you know, anyways, you know, COVID-19, the pandemic has changed what or influenced what aspects of climate change reporters should be focusing on. If there's, you know, any new tools potentially that have been developed by newsrooms, you know, tools or apps that have been developed by newsrooms or journalists reporting on COVID-19 that might, you know, have some benefit for covering climate change. Again, I'm kind of just thinking off the top of my head with these, but it's, you know, I've seen some reporting about, you know, the interconnection between COVID-19 and, you know, climate change. And I think, and when we say we'd like pitches on climate change and environment reporting, these don't necessarily have to have a connection to COVID-19 as well. They can be, you know, specifically on, you know, climate change reporting tips for, you know, if there are new tools out there that you know of that'll help you, you know, report on wildfires, you know, better, and that other journalists should know about. Those are the kinds of resources we want to see. Oh, you're muted, Stella.
My apologies. The anonymous attendee also asks, would you accept interviews with famous, legendary editors?
Yeah, I think that's a great pitch. I think learning from like experts in the field is super beneficial. We do accept Q&A interviews. I would say not like a whole lot. I mean, we don't want like our whole site to be Q&As, but if you have an interview with someone who is like prominent in the field, that can be really beneficial. And we would like love to hear that. I will say like caution of like, make sure, you know, you have that access and like, you're sure you can deliver it. I think it's, but yeah, if you have those connections, like we would love to get those interviews.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try unmuting Abdulaziz again, because he says hopefully his mic is working this time. Hi, Abdulaziz, how are you?
I'm good. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello.
We can hear you.
Tell us about yourself. Where are you based?
I'm based in Malaysia.
Uh-huh.
I'm an exiled journalist from the Middle East, from Yemen, based in Malaysia. I work with refugees, vulnerable communities, reporting to that, and also with COVID. And I've been really getting so much from ICFJ and IJNet as well. But I wanted to ask, what do you offer to cater for exiled journalists? And if not, would there be an opportunity, or is it possible for other journalists to propose programs, events, or webinars regarding that?
That's a really good question, Abdulaziz. You know, I think your first question might be more programs related in terms of what ICFJ offers, and we'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know off the top of my head. In terms of, you know, opportunities you might be involved with that, you know, are related to, you know, exiled journalists. If you're helping organize a webinar about a topic related to that, definitely you can get in touch with us and we can help promote it. Those are exactly the kinds of opportunities we promote on IJNet. I'd also say join our Facebook forum, the IJNet forum, and you can post about these opportunities as they come up yourself to a network of 6,000 other journalists who might be interested in this. I hope that answers your question.
Actually, I've checked in both, and it's usually that small little details where like reporters from the MENA region have to be based in the MENA region, but sometimes it's hard for exiled journalists to be in that region. So like for me, I'm in Asia, but still I report about COVID and misinformation and the infodemic in the Middle East. So it's hard to sign in or to be part of other programs. So I feel like kind of other exiled journalists who I know a couple of them who are really way farther more experienced than I am. And it's like, it's a chance that we can, we are missing by not giving that. So I was hoping for that. And the second thing about the forum, as much as the journalism world is, it's all about collaboration and working together, but sometimes for exiled journalists, safety comes first. So it's hard to be around in a forum where you expose yourself and your privacy to 6,000 journalists, because not everyone is as nice as you guys. I actually was part of the forum and I left both of the forums. Yeah, so
no,
okay.
that's understandable. And actually the point you make
Yeah.
about like programs for exiled journalists and making sure like there are rules on pitches that also include you is in fact very useful feedback. And that's something I'm sure IJNet will take into consideration and something we'll definitely bring back to our teams. I also understand the problem with security precautions where it's like you want to be part of the forum and you want to publicly post, but you're concerned about being identified, about where you live. That's something we can also take back and discuss with our team. I don't know how much we can do about it, given that unfortunately social media is a public platform, but we'll definitely talk about it and take your feedback into account on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I will say as well, this is a really great, like you're raising really great issues. And, it's maybe something that we're interested in, like exploring more on IJNet through like a story or something. So I'd say definitely get in touch with us too. And we can talk about, putting together a story or something that I think raises these issues because they're, or these like topics and questions and, really starts to highlight these like concerns, because I think it's like really great. So, or like really great to like bring up, not great.
Not a great situation.
But yeah, I'd say definitely get in touch. We like don't want this to be the end of that. So we want to like continue to
I was actually attending earlier. I'm still attending at the background of this, the Exile Media Forum.
Mhm.
And I've seen like the blockchain technology is actually invented by Dr. Walid al-Sakaf, and it's an exiled journalist as well. And it's just all of those big people, and like people wouldn't run away unless they are in a great danger, and that wouldn't happen unless they really fought for something so hard to reach to that. And I felt like this needs to be shared with everyone. So hopefully soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely get in touch.
absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Abdulaziz. Now I see a few more questions. I see, hopefully I will pronounce your name correctly. Is it Kritika?
Hi, yeah, it
Hi,
is.
Kritika. Where are you? Where are you based?
Hi, I'm based out of India, Delhi, and I actually quite recently wrote for IJNet as well. Hi, Taylor. So basically, just wanted to, I also dabble a lot in mental health journalism, and I wanted to get an idea of, the kind of stories you guys do at IJNet when it comes to that, because I've seen there's a lot of, guidelines on sensitive reportage and a lot in terms of how to talk about sensitive issues, trauma, suicide, that kind of stuff. But that's more like a general, guidelines sort of thing. The kind of stories I have in mind are more, I approach them from an advocacy point of view. So a lot of people with lived experiences, they are, and this might have a lot of local context, but they're talking a lot about how mental health journalism needs to take a different approach to how, who are the experts in those stories, for instance. And so there's a whole mini Twitter movement around this. Are these kinds of stories about what people are doing or talking about in terms of what the change could be, instead of what has already been? Because this is not a change we are already seeing in the media organizations, but it is something people are advocating for. So would that also be a story of interest?
I would say yes. I mean, this Twitter movement around what you just were describing, that sounds like a resource we'd love to publish on IJNet. We want to be forward looking as well, like you mentioned. And if there's, new trends emerging and new kind of guidelines and advice for carrying out mental health journalism, for other journalists to know about and to improve their own reporting as they, cover the issue, then, that's exactly the kind of resource we want on IJNet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And we have a couple of other questions in the Q&A section that I'm just going to weave in here. This is another one from the anonymous attendee. Would you accept pitches for a series of stories or larger projects, or be open to co-publishing or collaborating one, maybe with another organization?
Who wants to take this? Yeah, I mean, we collaborate with other organizations. I think on series, we're collaborating with HackPack, if you're familiar with HackPack right now, on a series of webinars. Alongside these webinars, we'll publish our usual recaps. So that's an example of collaboration we get involved with. If you're pitching, I'd suggest if you're pitching as a freelancer and we haven't received pitches from you before, we should start with a single article, so we both get familiar with what the process looks like, and then if down the road there's a more kind of comprehensive series you'd like to pitch, we can always have that conversation then. But I'd say for starters, one article, and then if you're part of an organization that wants to collaborate with us, definitely we want to hear from you. We're always looking to expand our reach and collaborate with others.
Thank you. And there's another question here from Erica Hellerstein. She says, a question about the Global Health Reporting Forum. Is this a place where we can post requests for data and sources related to COVID reporting in a particular country? For example, if I'm reporting a piece about the impact of COVID-related school closures in a specific country, would this be the place where I can post a comment asking for sources of data to what I'm covering in this country? Just wondering what the comment section would be used for. Thanks. I'm happy to answer that question, Erica. You can make any post to the forum. Our moderators are of course checking the posts before accepting them. But if you're making a post asking for data, asking for collaboration with another journalist, we absolutely encourage that. So absolutely make those posts, and a moderator is likely to accept it because we call that a call for collaboration post. And I think in the English language forum, we have about 3,600 members, all of them journalists from all over the world. So if you put your posts there, chances are another journalist from another country will respond to you and point you to either where those resources are, or even contact you privately to set up some kind of collaboration to help you with that story. So really, we highly encourage you doing that. I think we have one more question here from Abdi Nasser. Abdi Nasser, if you have a question about IJNet, please let us know what the question is. I think I've allowed you to talk. Hi, Abdi Nasser.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Okay. I'm very happy to participate this Zoom. Okay, my name is Abdi Nasser. I'm an excellent journalist who lives in Germany. I'm from Somalia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm freelance journalist there. Okay, I wanted to know, you said you sent your stories of IJ, but there is difficult because the safety of the life of the histories, many times we are refugee, we hear another country, because sometimes I write about histories or news in in pages, but we meet in our treatment or something like that. But I want to know about how freelance journalists helping that programs to be free, because I know an article one or all human beings are born free and equal right and justice, equal right and dignity.
Mhm.
And sometimes,
Yeah. I was going to ask, do you want to know like how to pitch safely? Like if you're concerned about a story that has sensitive information?
Yes, because sometimes when you write something, they feel it or revenge, indirectly. That is problem.
Yeah. So maybe the question to IJNet really should be like, if a journalist wants to write a certain story, but they're concerned about their safety, like Abdi Nasser is being an exiled reporter. And again, this weaves back into like the idea of exiled journalists. For example, I think you want to encourage bylines, but if there's sensitivity or security issues, would you be willing either to publish the story anonymously or not have a byline?
I think so, yeah. And you can, use the same, form to pitch your story and just make it really clear in there. I think going into it, I think many journalists, of course, want to get their bylines out there. We understand, of course, if there's security concerns that you have with having your name attached to it, you want to write for us. That's definitely understandable, and we can work with you. I just, really urge you to make that really clear when you pitch it and when we, have our back and forth via email before publishing, so that we, make sure to, honor that request.
Great, thank you so much. And I see that Irene here. Hi, Irene, how are you? Can you hear us? Irene, if you could unmute your mic, we'll be able to take your question.
Is that okay?
Yes, it is okay. Where are you based,
great.
Irene?
Hello, everyone. Okay, good to be here. So I have a question, actually 2 questions. First of all, I'll say something about myself. Irene Zifon, I'm a journalist from Cameroon. And I run a media organization, Media Packages Cameroon. So I'm an independent journalist and I work with other journalists to produce news content for news outlets and businesses.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a question for IJNet? Oh, I think we might have lost you, Irene. Are you still there?
So my first question would be maybe tools. Sorry?
Oh, there you go. You skipped a little bit.
Oh.
Could you repeat the question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So the question is, now, if you have a story about applications that are produced, that have been created not necessarily by journalists, maybe by developers, would IJNet be able to publish that? Because we have cases like that in Cameroon. Most of the apps are produced by IT experts, even though it's there's one that is produced by an IT expert, the developer, but it's quite helpful in this era of COVID-19 because it kind of links people with the medical staff.
Do you mean
doctors? They're able to consult and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that in terms of tools, like it does not have to be developed by journalists, but I think that it should have some element that's useful to journalists. So can journalists like use this tool to find story ideas? Can they use this tool to connect with sources? Is this a tool they can use to, monitor COVID numbers or things like that? So as long as there is a way that journalists can use that tool, it's definitely something that we would publish on IJNet. And I'd say in cases like that, we would want to hear of case studies or examples or interviewing a journalist who has used a tool like that to use it to assist their reporting. But we know there's a ton of overlap between technology and journalism, and it'll just become more and more, meshed together. And so we definitely want to continue to tell those stories of technological advancement that ultimately like helps us produce better journalism. So I'd say that that is like definitely a great example of that. And we would love those pitches.
Thank you so much, Irene.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Well,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
It's
another
much-
question?
Yes, go on.
Yeah, second question, please. So I also wish to find out about any resources that IJNet offers for journalists from, I would say, West Africa, where I'm from, where I'm based. Because more often I see opportunities for journalists from North Africa and all that, especially training, training sessions. And I've just been hoping that I would want to see some for journalists from my region so I could participate as well.
I think, well, yeah, so Irene, that's a really great question. And I think, so like we mentioned, we just launched our French site back in May. And previously we didn't have much of a foothold in West Africa where I know it's a largely French speaking population, and so hopefully you'll see more and more opportunities in West Africa for journalists as we continue to build out the French site. That said, if you know of opportunities that would be relevant for journalists, definitely send them our way, because we're trying to get on as many listservs as possible. Our editors and translators for the French site, they're really great. And they're a few months into this, but as many resources as we can send their way will only help our output of those kinds of opportunities for journalists.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
And I just want to check with you two, because we are a little bit over time. Do you guys have any more meetings, or could you take one more question?
I think we could take
Okay.
the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
More is fine.
Just double checking.
Thanks, Stella.
I see
Yeah.
a question here with, I'm going to mispronounce your name and I'm so sorry. Temi Tope, is that the way you pronounce it? Hi, Temi Tope, can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, Stella.
Hey, good evening. Where are you based?
I'm based in Nigeria.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. It's a little bit fuzzy, but we can hear you. Tell us your
Yeah,
question.
Okay, I'm a health journalist, so I want to find out. Sorry for the noise, I'm in traffic,
No
so that's
worries.
why I'm just joining. So I want to find out. I write for health, everything about health, maternal health, and infant health, and health in particular. Does IJNet accept pitches on health or maternal health? That's the question I want to ask. And what are the opportunities available for stories on health? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thanks for the question. So we are definitely interested in health journalism. Just, as we've said before, we don't want pitches on health. We want pitches on how to cover health stories. So, as long as your pitches have some sort of focus on how to support journalists who are working on health related topics. So maybe, in your own reporting, you've encountered a tool that helps, report on maternal health, or, you have a bunch of tips that you've, learned over the years covering this story. And you can work with some other journalists to compile a list of tips for a specific, covering a specific health topic. So, these, or, you have a specific story that you covered and you want to do a how we covered it, kind of a deep dive and looking at how you compiled that research and did that investigation or whatever that would look like. So we definitely love talking about health journalism. I think this is a huge topic. It always has been, always will be, especially now in the midst of COVID. But we just really want to, as we've said before, just make sure that the angle that you're approaching it from is a way that it's useful for others who are covering these topics.
Thank you so much. Now we are over time for this webinar. I know that we still have a lot of questions, in which case what I'm going to encourage you to do is to please email IJNet if you have any questions or want clarifications after this webinar. I will post both David and Taylor's contacts onto the forum group on Facebook. And yeah, so please get in touch with us and keep in touch with us, and we'll make sure that their presentation and resources are also posted up to the forum group or linked somewhere publicly. Thank you so much for joining us today, you guys. I really appreciate it, and telling us about IJNet. And just to let everyone know, I just have like a short announcement. ICFJ staff based in Washington, D.C. will be on holiday this Thursday and Friday for American Thanksgiving weekend. So we will see you all next week. David, Taylor, do you have any closing remarks for our audience?
Yeah, well, this was great. I really love getting to hear some of your questions. We know that there's probably more questions, so definitely don't hesitate to reach out to Taylor and myself with any questions or concerns. We love hearing from you. We want your ideas. We want your pitches, and also follow us on social media so you can stay up to date on, what we're publishing and, the opportunities that might be available to you. And so, yeah, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Taylor?
Yeah, exactly what David said. The last thing I'd add is I posted the link a couple times in the chat that we have turned the presentation into like a bit.ly link. Stella, I think, can post it in the forum after this as well. But you can definitely see all the full presentation that we've been doing, that we did with like different links and our contact information and things like that at that link. So I'll post it one more time here. But definitely like reach out with any questions. We love to hear from you. And it was great to hear, a few voices as we did this webinar today. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And it was wonderful to have everyone here. Please stay safe, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.